Hello, beautiful people. I'm doing another sit-down video for you today. Today's video is things that I would do differently after giving birth in the hospital. If you've seen my previous video, which I'll link down below, my labor and delivery story, my birth experience went super duper well. I totally have like spit up on my dress, whatever. Anyway, I had the best birth experience and I feel so blessed that I did. When it came to my hospital stay, it was a very traumatic, horrible experience for me. And so there's several things that I would do differently. And so I'm going to tell you those today, so maybe you can try and do these things to have a better hospital experience. My first and very most important thing is next time I'm not staying as long. I had an epidural, and so they're like, oh, you have to stay till it wears off. And I joke around now saying that next time, I don't care if my legs don't work, I am rolling my happy butt out of there. Once my epidural wears off and I pee for the first time, because they require you to do that, I am out of there. They tried to tell me, oh, like, you know, stay a couple more days. Oh, the baby's not eating well. So we ended up staying like 4 days or just something crazy. And the hospital will make you go psycho, okay? They're in there every 30 minutes checking on you, checking on the baby, and the baby already isn't sleeping very much and you're not sleeping very much. I didn't sleep for 4 days. 4. So, I'm not going to stay as long next time, especially now that I'm, you know, at that point I won't be a new mother. I will kind of sort of know what I'm doing. So, I'm going home. And if the baby's not sleeping and I'm suffering, I'd rather be suffering at home than suffering at the hospital. So I am out of there. Number 2, I'm gonna ask for what I want. I've never had a baby before. I've never really even been at the hospital before for myself. So I didn't realize, and maybe it was just my hospital, but they didn't really offer much. There were so many things that I needed, and I figured that they would offer it to me. So for instance, before birth and during like labor and birth, I had such bad heartburn, and I was under the impression that I couldn't eat anything. So I didn't want to have Tums or anything because I didn't know if that was bad or not. So I just kept complaining about, gosh, besides the heartburn, I'm doing great, you know? And then during birth, they're like, oh, did you want something for your heartburn? I'm like, I wanted something for my heartburn a long time ago. I didn't realize that I was allowed to have it, you know. This will go along with my next point, but just ask for what you want. And even if they say, no, you can't have that, or we don't offer that or something, at least you asked. But be vocal, be out there. If you need something, you know, just say something. And so that goes into my number 3, which is if your baby does not latch right away, or you're trying very hard to breastfeed and they won't breastfeed, which is how my son was. He didn't learn to breastfeed till he was a month and a half. You can ask for banked breast milk, or you can start on formula, or you can pump and give it to them in a bottle. Like, there's no shame and no judgment for doing any of those things, but I had no idea that they had banked breast milk, and we were kind of trying to be the no formula people when he was first born. Now I'm like, you know, screw that. He can have formula. He's going to turn out just fine. But I didn't know that they had banked breast milk. So after 3 days of him trying to feed and not being able to feed, and like 3 different lactation consultants coming in and all of those things, he's like dropping weight because he's not eating and he just cannot figure out how to latch and breastfeed and that whole thing. Finally, it's like our last night there, and this nurse comes in, and I'm so exhausted, and he's screaming he won't sleep because he's starving. I'm like bawling my eyes out, and I'm like, I am just so tired, and he won't stop crying, and I don't know what to do. And I'm like, is there something that we can do, because he's so hungry? And she's like, oh, did you want some banked breast milk? And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? You guys had this the entire time. And so you let him starve for 3 days, and he has been crying and not sleeping for 3 days, and you had this solution the entire time? So ask for what you want, ask them if they have a solution for a problem, and if your baby cannot breastfeed right away, no worries, don't be worried about it. Pump and give them that, or give them banked breast milk or formula or something, because right after birth you were so exhausted. I didn't sleep for 24 hours before birth, and then after birth, 4 days, that whole thing. So if you can get them to sleep so that you can sleep, just whatever you do, just do that thing that works. And that, of course, goes into my next thing, which is sleep when they sleep. Oh, he was like not sleeping at night, but he'd sleep during the day. And we would have visitors during the day. And so then I wasn't sleeping because I was, visiting with people and they were holding him while he was sleeping. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I should be sleeping right now. I mean, it's still hard to sleep during the day at the hospital because they're bringing you food and that's when you eat. If you're really that exhausted and you have to stay for an extended period of time, which again, I recommend not doing, but if you have to, that's a whole other thing. Then tell people, sorry, no visitors, I'm exhausted, I need to sleep, and he's only sleeping during the day, so I'm sleeping during the day. Getting your sleep so that you can have your sanity is so much more important than people visiting. They can always visit you at home, or if they really want to be helpful, tell them, yeah, I need you to visit at 3 o'clock in the morning. And my next thing, which is my final thing before the bonus one, at least I'm gonna do this, I'm giving a binky right away. They kept telling me that he was gonna get nipple confusion and don't give him a binky and blah, 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 blah. Well, let me tell you, he had nipple confusion anyway. He was not breastfeeding. He didn't learn to breastfeed until he was a month and a half. And they're like, oh, don't give the binky for 2 weeks. And the binky, once those 2 weeks was up, was the only thing that was making him feel better. He just needed something to suck on and something to soothe. And he obviously was not doing it with my nipple. He was having a very hard time. And so the binky helped him fall asleep. It helped him stop crying. It helped him, calm down. After that, he actually got better. I have a theory that because I gave him the binky, he learned how to suck and created a stronger, mouth. And so then he was able to breastfeed when he was a month and a half. So I'm giving the binky right away. You might have a different opinion, and everyone's opinion is valid. It's fine. But this is what I'm doing differently. I'm giving the binky right away. I don't care what the hospital says. Get out of here. So my last thing has to do with you and kind of, your postpartum journey. But it is bring your own diapers. Some women use the mesh underwear that they have at the hospital and they're like, oh, it's a great time, love them. I hated them. They're these super duper flexible mesh underwear. They are kind of the material of pantyhose. And you have this huge pad, just these massive pads that you put in there. And you're bleeding a lot. It's TMI, but it's true. That's what happens. You bleed for 45 days. And if you thought that your doctor said 4 to 5 days, no, 45 days. So that pad fills up and it gets heavy and then it starts sagging from these mesh underwear and it's just horrible. It's just an awful time. So I recommend buy some Depends and bring them to the hospital when you go because they're so much more sturdy. You feel a lot more comfortable in them instead of having this saggy, meshy, huge pad mess. Just get the nighttime Depends, and they even have ones that they think are cute. They're not. Have a little drawn on bow so you can feel good about yourself, but just do yourself a favor and bring your own diapers. Your baby's gonna be in diapers and you're gonna be in diapers. Just have a diaper party, you know what I'm saying? I hope that these sit-down videos are helpful for you. And if you have already gone through all of this stuff, I hope that you could kind of resonate with some of the stuff that I said. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in my next one.